Paul Bodenloss.
Dealing with some problems in the downtown area. State Street's closed northbound between Monroe and Washington, and that's closed with a rollover crash. On the Kennedy inbound, slowing between Lake and the Burn interchange. It's 21 minutes O'Hare to downtown, 11 from the junction. Express lanes are good. The inbound Eisenhower slows between Wolf and Des Plaines, and again as you approach the Burn interchange, 42 minutes, 390 to the post office, 28 from Wolf. And on the Dan Ryan inbound, a little sluggish between Cermak and the Burn interchange with that construction in the right lane. It's 17 minutes between 95th and downtown. On the Tri-State, northbound lanes a little heavy between the Reagan Memorial and the Eisenhower with that ramp to the outbound Ike starting to hit the brakes. That's traffic. I'm Paul Bodenloss on AM 560, The Answer.
Chicago's Morning Answer continues next in our AM 560 Weather Center. Cloudy and 33 today. 19 at O'Hare. Next news at 7:30. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
From the Matrix Home Solutions Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560, The Answer.
Listen to AM 560, The Answer, online at 560theanswer.com, on the AM 560 mobile app, on your Alexa-powered smart speaker, on TuneIn, iHeart, and radio.com. This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. Microsoft founder and multi-billionaire Bill Gates on with Jake Tapper over the weekend on CNN, and he was asked about how long he thinks that this period of restrictions will last, how long with vaccine dosages now rolling out around the country and the Western world. How long it will be before there'll be some return to pre-COVID America. This is what Bill Gates had to say.
Mask wearing has essentially no downside. They're not expensive.
Is he a doctor?
Bars and restaurants in most of the country will be closed as we go into this wave. And I think, sadly, that's appropriate. Depending on how severe it is, the decision about schools is much more complicated because the benefits are pretty high. The amount of transmission is not the same as in restaurants and bars. So, trade-offs will have to be made.
When do you think life will fully return to what we thought of as normal back in January? No masks, no social distancing, no other protective measures necessary.
Certainly by the summer, we'll be way closer to normal than we are now. But even through early 2022, unless we help other countries get rid of this disease and we get high vaccination rates in our country, the risk of reintroduction will be there. And of course, the global economy will be slowed down, which hurts America economically in a pretty dramatic way.
The most interesting word he used in that clip, trade-offs. And the most interesting aspect of the context in which he used it to me is that the trade-offs, as he sees them, are always in the direction of safety, because why not? Bill Gates is insulated from the real world financially.
Yeah, he doesn't experience the hardships that most Americans experience. He's a billionaire computer guy deciding what restaurants should stay open, talking about masks. What is he, a virologist or epidemiologist on the side?
Well, you can have an opinion and not have a medical degree. That's not my issue with him. My issue is that he is imperious because he can be. And he says things that turn out not to be true. You can have an opinion without having a medical degree. It doesn't mean that it's a fact or that it should be worthy of more respect because of your net worth. It should be worthy of respect or not based on the quality of the opinion, the evidentiary basis for it. Restaurants and bars should be shut down, he says, unfortunately. The transmission rate we've seen across the country, including in New York, which just shut down indoor dining as of Monday, is under 2%. The school transmission rate is negligible, not just in America, but in the Western world, in the 24 countries that have not suspended in-person instruction. So what does he mean it's complicated? It's not complicated at all. If there's anything approaching a scientific consensus on something related to COVID other than the vaccines, it's on kids should be in school. And he says it's complicated. And, of course, his opinion has outsized influence because of his checkbook.
Right. I mean, one of the wealthiest people in the world telling you that you need to shut down your business. I'm sorry.
Well, it's
unacceptable.
It's also, sort of the basis from where they're coming. The people who say, go ahead, shut down the schools because I have options. Go ahead, shut down businesses because I have options. And this brings us back to our friend Chris Arnade. His book, Dignity, Seeking Respect in Back Row America, sort of this front row, back row America dichotomy that he develops in his book and in his work. He recently gave an interview to Spiked Online, our friend Brendan O'Neill over there, who's the editor-in-chief. It wasn't Brendan O'Neill who did the interview, about elites in the West and what they don't understand about the people over which they lord. And he's not just talking about politicians. He's talking about people that are in front row America, which may include a lot of politicians, but it's not limited to them. Chris Arnade, writer, photojournalist, the book again, Dignity, Seeking Respect in Back Row America. His work is worthy of much respect. Chris, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
So what about some of the pronouncements you get from people who have access to these Sunday talk shows like a Bill Gates and whose foundation may do some laudable work, but it doesn't mean that everything that he utters should be codified into our protocols, the way we live our lives, and just what you heard from him on Sunday there. Does that jive with your assessment that front row America just sort of has no appreciation for the lives of back row America?
Yeah, I mean, the obvious question, I think the follow-up question is, how many servants do you have, Bill? I presume you probably in your mansion have 5 people who feed you, 3, 2. You have people who feed you. It's very different when you're in a 4th floor walk up in the Bronx with 3 generations living, sharing one bathroom, right? And very different when, you just can't go out and do things because Bill and his mansions, private jets, and all that can make these pronouncements about what's best for us, while he has removed himself from the policies that he wants the rest of us to have to live with. I think that's kind of indicative of a lot of how what I call front row, you can call it elites, whatever you want to call, overeducated. In my days, we used to call them eggheads, and I'm one of those eggheads. People who just, have too much schooling and not enough common sense, and that used to be a real problem, because you could, but in the past you could generally laugh them off, but now they have lots of real power. It's almost like the last 30 years has been the revenge of the nerds, and they've made a lot of money. And they control a lot of companies, and they have a lot of political power, and so they get their views on things is what the rest of us have to live with. Well, and they've removed themselves. That's what it's just they completely remove themselves from the how people live. I mean, I'm not. You watch the jaw-dropping hypocrisy from a lot of politicians. It's like the governor of California. I believe it was the mayor of Austin who went down to Mexico.
And told people to stay home while he was on vacation in Los Cabos.
Yeah, I mean, I think he could feel good because he flew down there in a private jet, so he quote didn't get exposed. But come on.
Well, I don't know, Chris, if you're familiar with our governor. Our state stinks so badly that half of his family lives in Florida. He shut off travel sports for everybody, but his daughter gets to do her sport that she loves down here in Florida.
Yeah, I mean,
it incensed a lot of Illinoisans. Yeah,
it's things like that. I mean, it's just the jaw-dropping hypocrisy. It's the reason it resonates so bad. I mean, besides just being annoying as hell, it just confirms what everybody knows. Is they live by a different set of rules, and their pronouncements about what what is best. It's not just pronouncement; it's a scolding. It's a scolding attitude that if you don't follow them, you're unscientific, you're an idiot, you're just a commoner. You just go get more school and learn about where I am and how I think. It doesn't impact them. They make one set of rules that doesn't impact them.
Well,
it's kind of like.
Here, the other follow-up to Bill Gates would be, Bill, the World Health Organization says the West shouldn't shut down because you're disrupting supply chains for food and you're endangering another 30 million people the world over who may starve to death. I thought the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation was global in perspective. So what about those 30 million people? And back here at home, half of the unemployment spike in the initial round of shutdowns in the spring was people making $40,000 or less. And what do you say to them and their jobs and their livelihoods? That we'll send you a check once every 6 months, and you just learn to get by until we say it's okay for you to work again? Is that the attitude?
I mean, I first of all, I wish we would send people a check pretty regularly. That's my view, and that's probably where I differ from some people on the right, but certainly not Senator Hawley. I think we should send people a check to make you can't tell people not to do to hole up in your small home while we go to French Laundry, by the way, which is the dumbest name ever for a restaurant.
I know, isn't it awful?
But
it is quite good, though.
I don't think. Yeah, I guess I'm not educated enough to know that French Laundry is supposed to be good, but apparently it's very, very good.
It is very
$500.
Okay, Dan's eating there.
Yes, me and Bill Gates had dinner there. No, I'm kidding.
They got to change the name, man.
yeah. No, but look, I agree. If you take something, if that's a taking, right, a government taking. This is like the personal or the payroll protection program. If you shut down my business as a government taking, you have to compensate me, and I would say the same with respect to disallowing people from working. So I'm not quibbling with that so much, but I mean that. But as you know, work is more than just a paycheck. It's also soul craft. There's psychic value to it, and it's just a dismissive attitude. Say, yeah, we're going to shut you down. You can't work because you can't work remotely, and so on and so forth. So we'll send you checks, and you just wait, and we'll tell you when it's okay to come out.
I mean, what people are misunderstanding is how much people need community. I mean, the elites, the front row, they have their community. It's a global community. It's people like them, and they continue to find, they find, that's their community. The people they can fly on private jets with, the people they can, and they're still seeing each other. That's the thing. That's what's so frustrating is you got to allow people to have the ability to live their lives and give them enough credit for judging the risk and understanding the risks and taking precautions, because people should take precautions because it's a bad thing going on. Right. But I'm a big believer in almost a libertarian sense that just let people are pretty smart in aggregate. Let them decide what to do. Limit the regulations. It's like give people money. Don't tell them what to do. No strings attached. Just let. And stop. Politicians want to get involved in everything, and because they like to. It's what I call. It's like HR compliance. The compliance size everything. It's regulate and compliance everything. Leave people alone.
Chris, and not to bring this back to Illinois, but today we have staging. Governor Pritzker is going to be there in Peoria when somebody gets the first vaccine, and Mayor Lightfoot's going to be there. Because it's a photo op to be there when the first Chicagoan gets a vaccine. So they've inserted themselves in every level, even the vaccination process, because it's a photo op and it's free publicity.
I mean, one of the things I can't understand, and I actually am amazed to watch Senator Hawley from the right and Bernie Sanders from the left combine together to say we just need to send people checks with no strings attached. I mean, very rarely are politicians willing to do the right thing and step away from the process. And to me, the right thing is give people as much power as they can without meddling, And so, that's my take from the beginning has been, give people the economic incentive to go through this thing the way you think you want that, the way they should want to go through the thing in a healthy manner, and keep everybody afloat without having to get involved at every process. And so,
Yeah.
You know, we'll
that's
see if it happens. But
right. That's one way to do it. Another way to do it is to let them work when there's no reason that they shouldn't be allowed to work or run a business, and which is also
one of the things that's been very clear from the beginning, or one of the things that this has exposed, is that, you know, epidemiologists, they have one job, you know, and they kind of fuck that job up. And it's like, you know, you have one job, and once in a 100-year flood comes, and they kind of messed it up from the get-go. I think they've hurt their credibility a lot because they've been all over the place. They initially denied this whole thing, and then they flipped and went overboard. So I think they've really done themselves a great disservice. You know, if they had been very very clear from the outfront of and then they got involved in the politics of the protest movement in the summer. You know, switching their mind and saying, "Oh, sure, go outside and protest." You know, after telling everybody not to gather. I mean, they just really hurt their credibility here.
I wanted to. I know one of the arguments that you make is that the real divide in America is one of education, and this is an argument that other academics make, like Michael Lind down at University of Texas. Last week, the National Student Clearinghouse Research Center issued a report showing a 22% decline in enrollment from high school seniors in college, with even more drastically lower levels of enrollment from poor, urban, and minority students. Nearly one-third of low-income, minority, and urban high school graduates who would have gone to college in a previous year stayed home this year, according to this report. I'm sort of two minds on that number, or those numbers, because of what college has become. But with respect to your point, which I think is a legitimate one, about the divide being one of education, that decline in enrollment being driven by poor urban minority students, that can't be good news for those that are in the back row.
Yeah, you know, if it was a decline because there were other options available, you know, and that we were revaluing, putting a lot more emphasis on people who have skills that are not don't require education, crafts, trade skills, you know, the things that a lot of probably your listeners did for their lives, or do for their lives, you know, then that would be great. But that's not what's happening. It's just people can't live their lives, and so, you know, we really have only one, the elites, the Bill Gates of this world, and others really, you know, the educated academic elites, the politicians in both parties, actually really only kind of value people who go to college, and they don't value people who go to trade school. They don't value people who choose not to go to college and stay home to be part of to stay a strong member of their community, and that's a problem. But that's not why I think enrollment's dropping. Enrollment's dropping for bad reasons, and you know, this whole, you know, the school debate, especially at the younger child, elementary and middle school debate. And kids need community, man. You know, you can't run schools via Zoom. You just can't. That's not. I mean, kids go to school because they want to hang out with friends, and that's really an important thing. And you know, to ignore that and to ignore the value of the communities that come around churches and schools is I think is kind of how these eggheads are miss so much when they make policy. They don't understand people are not economic widgets that just are out there to be efficient and manufacture more. They're also people who like to, you know, have friends.
He is Chris Arnade, writer and photographer covering addiction and poverty in America, author of Dignity, Seeking Respect in Back Row America. Chris, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Listen to Dan and Amy on your smartphone. Download the AM560 mobile app today at 560theanswer.com/mobile.
We've all heard it. Eat healthy. But what does eating healthy mean? Sure, there are countless diets out there.